Welcome to Our Home, Our Future, an Earth 8 special. I'm meteorologist Sean Stiles. For years here at News 8, we've been on a mission to promote a healthy, sustainable Earth. And each week, we bring you stories that raise awareness about the challenges we're facing, from the climate crisis to the massive oil spills off the Southern California coast. And as we highlight the amazing thing people are doing to make our world a better place, just take a look.
We have a massive response to an oil spill off the coast of Huntington Beach. Now, crews are racing to save wildlife after an offshore pipeline ruptured. It's these globs of tar right here that wildlife is stepping in, and that's why there are concerns over birds, and they are the #1 priority and concern for rescue and rehabilitation.
The redwoods are the most magnificent forest we have.
Only 5% of the original ancient forest still stands. But a new initiative called Redwoods Rising is looking to rebuild these California staples. Their goal is to restore more than 70,000 acres of damaged forest in Northern California.
In the Cajon Valley Union School District, students start their day like any other, by hopping on the school bus. But what's different about these buses, with their blue bumper and wheels, is they're completely battery powered. These 6 battery powered school buses are on the road now. They say moving forward, they're hoping to add more to their fleet.
The fish come first, and so we're going to get the fish in the water.
The fish are juvenile California halibut.
They're 13 months old. They're about 7.5 inches on average.
Over 500 fish will be released, and while the population is doing well north of Point Conception, it's not south. The halibut released were raised from fish at Hubbs SeaWorld Research Institute.
Each step along the way is really its own success story. We're thrilled to be at this point here where we're releasing fish.
The issue on hand, drones. More specifically, how private drones have caused birds that call Bolsa Chica Conservancy home to abandon some 1,500 eggs after drones crashed nearby.
Prosecution is going to happen as we step up our enforcement. Birds that are sitting on eggs hoping to hatch those eggs can be intimidated or threatened, and they leave because it's for their own safety. They think they need to leave.
The early morning work by San Diego County's environmental health specialist, Romina Shess.
I'm waiting for the tide to come back in.
She's here in the South Bay daily testing the waters, waiting for the wave to scoop up a bottle full.
And I feel like what I do impacts the daily lives of all San Diego County residents. I'm really keeping you safe. I'm really protecting your health and keeping you safe. I don't want you to come to San Diego and get sick by going into the water.
And you can't talk about the climate crisis without talking about wildfires here in California. They are getting more intense. They are becoming more explosive. Now, I did a story just last summer that took a look at how the wind-driven fires are turning into something that is unique to Southern California, but it's becoming more and more common, a fire-nado.
We're watching a spectacular fire tornado down there at the right on the fire line.
The fire tornado, or fire-nado, got spinning so fast, it got up to 140 mile an hour spinning.
Dr. Pat Abbott is referring to the Carr Fire near Redding back in 2018.
That it would go over some areas without even causing a fire. So it literally was a spinning vortex of air with fire in it.
These winds were so powerful, they blew over steel towers and lifted a roof off a home, killing 3 inside. And as the fires grow, so does the heat that causes fire-nados.
When the heat starts rising, then air is drawn in to fill that gap. And as it comes in, the shearing is taking place within there, and that'll get the spin of the fire tornado, just like you get in a cloud.
This is what Dr. Pat Abbott is talking about. As you get wildfire burning in the chaparral, the air at the surface starts to rise. And as it's rising, it's pulling air in from all different directions. And that's what we call shear. That starts to spin the air mass. And as it spins, it pulls more and more air in, superheating the air at the surface and spinning and spinning. And as it goes up into the upper parts of the atmosphere, that's when you get a fire-nado.
And as you have more heat released in bigger fires, that means you're going to get more shear within them, more fire-nados forming. And then you have the problem of it's not just the fire, but the spinning air.
Yeah, that's an actual tornado.
That spinning air can be measured the same way tornadoes are. Back to the car fire.
A fire-nado achieved rotating wind speeds of 140 miles an hour, which is equivalent to an EF3 tornado on the Fujita scale.
Which complicates battling wildfires for firefighters on the ground. Impressive to look at. Now, I've covered my share of wildfires, but just last August, we saw how climate change is affecting another major event, hurricanes. Ida slammed into the Gulf Coast as a Category 4. We sent another member of the Earth 8 team, Evan Narani, with photojournalist Julio Vasquez to cover it.
Storm returned to their homes for the first time, driving through floodwaters and over down power lines to see what was left. Weeks went on with no power, and many are still relying on assistance from nonprofits and the government for basic necessities following the storm.
We cried yesterday when we found out about this.
All right, God bless y'all. Y'all have a good one. Scientists with NOAA say man-made global warming could bring hurricanes to the U.S. in greater numbers and with more intensity. And scientists project an increase in the future of three things: the rainfall that accompanies major hurricanes, the intensity of those hurricanes, and the proportion of storms that reach the status of Category 4 or Category 5.
The wind was about 115 miles an hour. There was panic, chaos.
In just the last 4 years, there have been 5 major hurricanes to make landfall as a Category 4 or 5 storm just in the Gulf Coast, giving the area little time to rebuild in between.
We got a lot of wind damage, roofs, trees down, backyards, debris is all over.
One United Nations agency says the number of weather disasters driven by climate change has increased 5-fold in the last 40 years.
I've never seen anything like this.
So while some continue to wait for power to be restored and to rebuild their homes, more and more will likely need to consider weather-safe options. And new research also suggests that increasing urbanization and industrialization can worsen severe flooding in many of the cities along the Gulf Coast. They say the more there is of that industrialization, the better chance of flooding. I'm Evan Narani, News 8.
Coming up, I sit down with a senior meteorologist at the National Weather Service to talk about extreme weather and our drought. But first, have you heard about zero waste lifestyle? How a local family is living it, and it just might inspire you. And one of my favorite stories I've covered, how San Diegans are working to bring the butterfly that only lives here in San Diego back from the brink of extinction. Get ready, new trash laws are going into effect here in San Diego that requires you to separate out food waste. But a zero waste family has been doing it for years and say it's about time the law changes. Frederica Siren and James Harker have been composting for a long time and have it down to a science. They live in a home on an average size lot in Talmadge and grow most of the food that they and their 3 kids eat in their yard. They say you appreciate the food more when you grow it.
We have to think it this way, that food that goes to a landfill becomes pure poison, and the food that goes to a compost actually becomes pure nutrients for the soil.
Whenever anybody asks me, like, if there's one thing I could do to live more sustainably, what would it do? And I always say compost.
All their food scraps feed the worms, which are constantly creating castings for their garden. I like that. The good way to keep the food scraps out of the landfill. I do that with my eggshells. All right, the Laguna Mountain skipper butterfly can only be found here in San Diego, and for nearly 2 decades, it hasn't been seen on its namesake, the Laguna Mountain. Now that's all about to change through an incredible collaboration. These butterflies are heading home, and I got to witness it firsthand. The last time the Laguna Mountain skipper butterfly was seen on Mount Laguna was in this particular meadow, and it was back in 1999. Now the only place it can be found is over on Palomar Mountain, and since they can't fly very far, they can't come back to their native habitat. But all of that is about to change as the Laguna Mountain skipper is going to be reintroduced to gorgeous mountain meadows like this.
This was the last place that the butterfly was ever recorded.
Breaking our own trail.
One good thing about this site is there's not a lot of public access.
Entomologist Allison Williams Anderson takes us to a hidden meadow. it's here that we find hope for the return of the Laguna Mountain skipper butterfly.
We can't take it off the endangered species list until we recover it, and one of the criteria that we have in our recovery plan is to have it here.
The Laguna Mountain skipper was last seen on the mountain in 1999, the year Anderson was hired by U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
I was hired in the fall, they were last seen in the spring. I never got a chance to see them here. I have seen them on Palomar Mountain though.
Those last remaining butterflies on Palomar Mountain are exactly what the San Diego Zoo's Butterfly Conservation Lab needed.
The adults will come here and the adult female butterflies will lay eggs on the host plant, which is the plant that the caterpillars eat, in the lab. We know that it can't make it to the Laguna Mountains, for which it was named, on its own, and we need to give it a little bit of help.
This is a new 5th stage caterpillar. It will turn into a chrysalis. It will pupate.
200 plus chrysalids will be raised for strategic placement by U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
It's been such a long haul to get kind of where we are now. And so to be able to finally, participate in a release in the Laguna Mountains is really exciting.
Horicula is what skipper caterpillars eat, and the U.S. Forest Service has made sure there's plenty in the Laguna Mountain meadows.
We've been very carefully managing the habitat of the Laguna Mountain skipper on Mount Laguna, even though the species wasn't here, so that we have that possibility to reintroduce them at a later time and their habitat is still intact.
So even though the skipper butterfly hasn't been seen on Laguna Mountain for 22 years, its original home is ready for its historic reintroduction.
So we're gonna basically take these guys and put them into one of these guys.
The chrysalids are ready to be placed in the meadow, and I was lucky enough to be invited.
We're gonna head actually right over there to the that clump of trees over there.
Placed throughout the meadow near plenty of horicula, the chrysalids will overwinter in their protected habitats.
When the springtime comes, the idea is the butterflies warm up in the spring and they all come out right on time.
And 200 butterflies will be skipping around the meadows of the Laguna Mountains.
Something that I've been imagining for years, and it'll be like a dream. It'll be like waking up, and this time it's real.
Theoretically, all these butterflies in the springtime will be coming out, and we will be checking to see how the Laguna Mountain skipper does. Coming up, I speak with the National Weather Service about what lies ahead for San Diego. If you thought the summer was hotter than normal, you would be right. But it hasn't just been summers, it's been year-round. When you look at the average temperature, the overnight lows, and the daytime highs, temperatures are on the rise. But we're not just talking about 1 or 2 years. We're talking about 6 of the top 10 warmest years have occurred here in San Diego in the past 10 years. And that's looking at records from 1874. Now add into that, or in this case, subtract rainfall total for the city of San Diego, and 6 of the past 10, they have been below average, some nearly 70%. Those are some scary numbers. To help us wrap our heads around these numbers, we went to the National Weather Service here in San Diego and spoke with Alex Tardy, warning coordination meteorologist. We are currently in a drought here in Southern California, and for that matter, the West, but also we're seeing temperatures that are on the rise. Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's correct, Sean. San Diego County, we're in year 1 of our current drought. And last year, we only saw 50% of our annual precipitation here in San Diego County. You combine that with the warm temperatures over the past 2 years, that's what's creating this severe drought condition, especially when you look at it statewide.
Now, you say first year of the drought, but then there was a drought prior to the 1 year in between, right?
Yeah, for a lot of us, it may seem like the droughts never ended. So between 2012 and 16, we had a severe drought that affected San Diego County and all of California. And in some cases, we didn't make up for that precipitation during that period.
Temperatures are on the rise to daytime and overnight.
When we look at temperatures, it's important we look at the entire day, the entire month, the entire year. That's nighttime temperatures, that's daytime temperatures averaged all together. It's important because that is a true measurement of what the stress is on everything, on our ecosystem, on our soil, on our water supply.
The climate is changing rapidly. We're seeing dramatic fires in Northern California, huge storms in the Gulf of Mexico and along the East Coast. How is climate change affecting those?
That's very true. So we just updated our temperature and precipitation averages, and we are seeing trends of warmer temperatures everywhere in California, some places significant just in the past 10 years. How's that playing a role? Well, we're adding more moisture into the atmosphere that can result in more extreme weather events. We're also at the same time having these warm temperatures that are causing more evaporation, the drought, more stress on our fuels, our trees, our fires are burning at intensities and behavior that we've never seen before in parts of the state.
And talk to me about the hurricanes that are developing out of this warmer atmosphere.
Simply to look at the fact that warmer temperatures will also allow for more energy in the atmosphere, more moisture in the atmosphere. So it doesn't just result in more hurricanes, but it takes the average hurricane or the average weather event and makes it more extreme, more capable of disasters.
We're seeing that take place with the fires in Northern California. These fires that normally would be 200,000 or 300,000 acres are now 1 million acre fires.
Yeah, and what's amazing is that is even occurring without a lot of wind. So in Southern California, we think of wind as being the big component. We're seeing these fires, it's called energy release component. The amount of energy that's in the fire, in the fuel because of the stress of the drought, the disease that comes from the drought, all that combined together, explosive, extreme growth in these fires.
What can the individual do? It doesn't seem like I can do that much, but can I?
The individual can cut back on some of your use of water, conservation, maybe timing different during the day when you water your plants and garden. Consider temperature and evaporation and not just water supply. Well, I can get more water. Well, that may not be the case. When it comes to fires, defensible space around your property.
All right, Alex, thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, coming up next, we'll show you some solutions and ways you can make a difference. Now we're going to show you some problems you might not even have thought of and what you can do to help, beginning with Chief Meteorologist and member of our Earth 8 team, Carlene Chavis.
Everyone loves a good party or celebration, but before you release the balloons into the air, you should think to yourself, where does it land? Well, that presents an environmental hazard for the eastern portion of our county.
I see them every single week. It's a very well-known problem. Here's an example, and they get stuck in these cacti and shred into little pieces. Microplastics can be harmful to wildlife.
There's actually a warning label on Mylar balloons telling you not to release them into the air. You just have to read the fine print. So the next time you're celebrating a special occasion, just remember to pop the balloon, and then go ahead and put it in the trash can when you're done.
A lot of single-use plastics that are super sneaky that people actually don't recognize as plastics. The to-go coffee cup is one of those. People all the time will tell me, but this is paper, it's totally fine, I'll just put it in the recycling. But the truth of the matter is that once paper is lined with some kind of a plastic, it's not recyclable and it's not compostable. It's only trash. Most coffee shops now are, again, accepting reusable cups.
If your favorite coffee shop, cafe, or restaurant doesn't offer reusable alternatives, Sandra suggests kindly speaking up and using your voice to propose the idea.
Before you head out the door, you grab your keys, wallet, phone, and now a mask too. Now, environmental concerns are growing about the long-term effects of those billions of masks.
Unfortunately, these things are made to be going to the landfill after they're done. There is no other use. It goes in the trash.
And it's not just landfills that these masks end up in. They're light enough to blow out of a trash bin or even out of your hand and end up on our local beaches or in the ocean. And they're made of microplastics. They're not made of fabric as they might appear. They also have these strings attached to them that animals can end up tangled in. That's why when you're disposing of these, it's suggested that you either cut these strings off or rip them yourself.
Binturons are losing habitat to live in as demand for palm oil grows and illegal groves pop up.
Basically, clear cutting down the natural growing forest and replanting with palm trees.
Binturons here at Wild Wonders are a gorgeous creature, but their habitat loss has been extraordinary in the southeastern part of Asia. There's an app out that can help you prevent that from happening.
So you can use these apps to kind of be really conscientious consumers, really responsible and make good choices about the products that we buy. So that's something very important that you can do.
And then you can make good choices and not promote the destruction of habitat for these keystone species.
One person can't do everything, but one person can do one thing. And you put all of these small things together, and it really can create a very important impact in the world.
Those are incredible creatures. When we first started Earth 8 more than a decade ago, it was my hope to sound the alarm about the challenges our planet was facing and help our viewers be more aware of the problems. With your help, we're doing that. Please keep your story ideas coming. And if you'd like to see any of these stories in their entirety or learn more about Earth 8, head on over to our website, cbs8.com, or check out our social media pages. I'm meteorologist Sean Stiles. Thank you for watching.